In the last podcast, we looked at some ways in which mindfulness might be helpful in parenting, and hopefully you had a think about some of the ways that mindful parenting might be useful for you. In this podcast, what I want to look at or think about are some of the more specific components of interacting with your baby in a mindful way. So the first one we're going to think about is this idea of slowing down and making a space for your baby. So slowing yourself down internally and externally can be a really effective way of entering a mindful state. So this is what we've been noticing with the breathing exercises we've been looking at this week. Increasing awareness of your own state is an important step before mindfully interacting with your baby. So just taking that moment to slow down, clear your mind, and make a space in your mind for your baby is a really important step. Without slowing down and connecting in with yourself and making that space, we really can't have mindful interactions. So this is what we were doing when we were looking at that controlled breathing exercise. And this can be a really effective way of slowing down and making a space in your mind so we can enter that mindful state. When we think about babies tend to go slowly. They are taking in a lot and everything is new to them. So slowing down means we can exist and experience, at least for a time, at their pace. This allows for what we call those moments of meeting. When we slow down to their pace, we can be with them in their experiences, which can be a connecting experience all of itself. So another component of interacting with our babies in a mindful way is infant observation. And this is really important because we want to get to their experiences. An understanding of what our babies may be thinking and feeling allows us to respond more easily, genuinely and responsively. A way into understanding their thoughts and feelings is to just observe closely and then try and read their behavioural cues. In keeping with the idea of being present, mindfulness invites us to notice, observe and watch our infant now in the present moment, in that curious, playful way without any judgment. Paying attention to your baby just comes to the fore. Slowing down helps because we can attend and notice all the smallest of details when we're observing our babies. So another component of this interacting in a mindful way is reading our baby's cues. Through observation, we can begin to understand the language and communication of our baby. So babies have their own special language, and it's our job to kind of learn that language. Being able to read our baby's cues and communications allows us to respond appropriately to our baby's needs. Learning to recognise key behavioural states provides a context through which to understand our baby's communications. And this also helps us decide when our baby is ready for sleep, feeding or interaction, so we can respond sensitively to their needs. I want you to pause here just for a moment and just reflect on some of the cues or the ways that your baby gives you an idea of what the world's like for them at any given moment. How do they try to communicate with you? Does your baby give clear cues, or is he or she a little bit hard to read? As a guide, we know that smiles, coos and open gestures from your baby communicate, go on, continue, while expressions of anger and looking away communicate, stop, I don't want any more of this now. Parents who ignore or miss their baby's cues to stop risk overstimulating their babies, which then makes it difficult for them to be soothed or learn to self-soothe. When this happens repeatedly in interactions over time, babies learn that their protests, saying no, are not heard or taken seriously. This sends the message that they cannot have an effect on their parents and they may give up trying, leading them to withdraw and not protest. It's really important for our babies to be able to protest. A healthy expression of protest is this important component of emotional development for infants. Babies' cues and providing what they need at the time they need it helps to build predictable and trusting relationships. The last component of mindful interacting with your baby that I wanted to talk to you about today is reflection and empathy. It's important to empathise with the emotional experiences of our baby. We need to use our capacity for empathy to try to imagine their world and how they might be experiencing it. Often our baby's emotions will feel overwhelming or confusing to them, so experiencing your empathetic response is comforting. Being attuned to your baby provides them with a sense that emotional experiences can be shared with others and understood by others. So let me try and give you a bit of an example of what I mean here. I want you to imagine that maybe your baby's just had a fright of some description and they turn to you upset. Now, imagine from your baby's perspective what it's like if, one, the face they see is even more distress. So not just reflecting their distress, but amplifying it. This is most likely to increase their distress. The message is, yes, that's awful, I'm scared too, I don't know what to do. All right, now imagine that the face they see is laughing at them, totally incongruent with what they're feeling. It makes it really difficult for our babies then to make sense and organise their feelings when the face they see reflected does not reflect what they're experiencing. This is true for all of us if we think about it. All right, now imagine the face that is looking back actually reflects their fright. And a bit of, oh, did that scare you? It was a big bang, wasn't it? It's okay. It's gone now. So our babies experience this feeling of being understood and safe. Oh, you get it, and you've got it covered. In these times, when we reflect back our baby's feelings in this manageable way, we show them that emotional experiences can both be shared and understood, and they don't need to be overwhelming. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. I hope that you found some of the things that we've talked about interesting and useful. We've really spoken today about slowing down, observing your baby, reading his or her cues. And what I'd like you to do next is to take a few minutes and have a go at these things all together. So start with some mindful breathing to make that space for your baby. And then I want you to spend a few minutes just observing your baby, reading his or her cues, and trying to reflect back his or her emotional state. So, after spending some time observing your baby, I'd like you to take some time to write a few words on what this experience this week of interacting mindfully with your baby has been like for the two of you. What have you noticed? If you could write this short blog for me and then send it through sometime before next week, that would be fabulous. Look forward to hearing from you.